In December of 1980, Tony Griffin was riding high, on top of the world, living a dream life. His primetime variety show had just hit #1. The entire nation, it seemed, had fallen in love with the hilarious, multi-talented showman, and they seemingly couldn't get enough of the 26-year-old superstar. He had just won another Oscar and was partying with the most beautiful women in Hollywood. He had entertained our country's newly elected president. His new NBC contract broke the bank.
On NBC.
And then, just like that, while on live television, he vanished from the face of the earth. Literally.
John Lennon.
Go to a commercial. Go to a commercial.
The sensational headlines gripped the country, and for 3 decades, there was one burning question on everyone's mind. So where have you been for the last 32 years?
I've been on an amazing journey. I've actually been traveling through time.
Do you actually expect anyone to believe that?
Ah, hell. I'm not even sure that I believe it.
I'm Michelle Wentworth. That exclusive story tonight on 60 Minutes. It was December 8, 1980, and not one of the 150 million viewers watching NBC that evening has ever forgotten what they had witnessed. Superstar entertainer Tony Griffin had just begun his live monologue when the stunning news of John Lennon's murder was quickly relayed to him. Suddenly and without warning, it happened. Griffin vanished into thin air right before our eyes and was not seen or heard from again for the next 32 years, until tonight. In the 1940s, Albert Einstein first theorized that the concept of time travel was not only possible, but would likely occur within the next century. As we were about to find out, Mr. Einstein was once again right on the mark. Michelle Wentworth. 2 weeks ago, I had just arrived at work when I received a shocking phone call. It was from an out-of-breath gentleman claiming to be the missing entertainer Tony Griffin. I kept him on the line while I quickly ran a sophisticated voice analysis check. And sure enough, as incredible as it seemed, I was actually talking to Tony Griffin. He agreed to meet with me, insisting that I tell no one and that I come alone.
Traffic and weather together, Bill Buckner.
All right, and we take a look at Queens, and we still have that problem on the Van Wyck Expressway heading south.
So I packed up my camcorder and off I went, going out of my way to be absolutely certain that I wasn't being followed. When I finally arrived, there was Tony, waiting behind a bulletproof glass enclosure. He explained that it was more for my safety than for his. And then, in this surreal setting, our interview began. Tell us what you remember about December 8, 1980.
Well, that was only 2 weeks ago for me, so I remember it pretty well. There was a severe lightning storm that evening. Since our studio is on the 91st floor of the Empire State Building, I was anticipating a truly electrifying show that night.
As Griffin continued, his sensational story got even stranger. The U.S. government researchers explained to Tony that he was their first successful time traveler survivor. Since this top-secret program began in the 1950s, over 300 prior attempts had resulted in tragic fatalities. But Tony was only halfway home. The next morning, they would attempt to safely send him all the way back. Utilizing a newly invented supersonic hyperwarp telephone link-up, the 2012 Tony Griffin actually briefly contacts his 1980 counterpart. Once the coordinates are perfectly aligned, Griffin is ready to roll. He waves goodbye to 2012 and hopes to safely return to the youthful life he had left behind. At first, everything appears to be going smoothly, but then, suddenly, things take an awful turn.
That's strange.
What's wrong?
I don't know, Ray. What do you make of that?
Red alert. All security personnel to your stations.
We're at power.
General?
Griffin is badly shaken, but he survives. I then learned why Griffin had chosen to contact me 2 weeks ago.
No, please don't hang up.
The data from his near-fatal trip back in time revealed that in order to successfully return to the past, he had to be accompanied by a perfectly matched female passenger.
Anything?
I was that perfect match. Griffin had only hours left before his 1980 body would give out here in the stressful 2012 environment. I had to make an immediate on-the-spot decision. Go with him and give up my life and career, or stay and watch him die right before my eyes. Ever the reporter, I couldn't pass up the story of the century. I agreed to go, provided they allowed my Maine Coon cats, Mikey and Joey, to come with me. And then, before I knew it, it was time to go.
Do this, you realize we may never regain contact with any of them again.
Switch them.
And now a quick update on this report, which we had originally broadcast last July. We're happy to report that Tony, Michelle, Mikey, and Joey all safely made it back to 1980. Michelle just called us this morning to fill us in. She is now a supermodel, living in Paris, and she is thoroughly enjoying her newfound youth. Sadly, the enormous stress of traveling back and forth in time took its toll on Tony Griffin. He recently quit show business and is currently in Bellevue Hospital, convinced he's a podiatrist. Mikey and Joey love being kittens again, but they sorely miss Animal Planet and clumpable kitty litter. And one final note. Before she had left, Michelle had quickly put together some 2012 mementos to share with the folks back home in 1980. And out of all of them, which one do you think they found hardest to believe? No, it wasn't the iPhone. It was this.